Hey everybody, welcome back to the Woodland Reboot. As you can see, it is a very wet, rainy day here out at the Woodland Reboot. Let's head into the big red barn and get busy with one of those projects I've been telling you about. Let's get inside, get the jacket off, and get busy. Okay, you may not have been able to see the rain outside, but I don't know if you can pick it up with the microphone on the camera. But, you know, I've just got the exposed sheets up on the roof there, so you should be able to hear the rain coming down on the roof. Okay, the big project right now is to fix the hydraulic leak on my Ford 9N. The cover for the hydraulic pump on these 9N tractors, I think it's the same for the 2Ns and the 8Ns as well, is right down here. The hydraulic pump sits on this cover and it drops down. My problem is that I've got a leak on the seal. Don't know if you can see it there, but this piece right here is part of the cover, part of that cover that's on the bottom side of this housing on which the hydraulic pump sits. And it's right at the seal area, right there, where I've been having the leak. Okay, so you say to yourself, all right, Peter, you've got to drop down the cover, pull out the pump, put a new seal on, slap it back in there, you're done. I wish it was that simple. I'm here at the back end of the tractor. I've got the PTO shaft, the power takeoff shaft, on which you run your implements. You have the drive to run your implements. The shaft, probably about 2.5 to 3 feet long. So in order to get that hydraulic pump to drop out, you have to remove the power takeoff shaft. That's just the first thing you have to remove. I also have to remove this cover here. It has a lever for the PTO on and off. And once I have this cover off, I'll be able to see inside where the linkage arms come down from the top end of the unit and join into the control valve. And those two linkage arms need to be disengaged as well before the unit can drop out of the tractor. I have here what we all should have handy when we're working on a project like this. This is my Ford 9N manual. This manual is actually good for 8N, 2N, and 9Ns. I have the manual open to the pages concerning the hydraulic pump, and what I want to do now is focus in on that schematic and this one up here. I've zoomed in here so we can all have a better look at the schematic, the drawing. You can see how it's labeled in the various parts concerning the hydraulic pump. And so what you have here, the pump, and then coming in from this side here is the power takeoff shaft. That's got to be removed. And then what you also see is the control arm coming down. And the control arm connects to the valve. And that needs to be disengaged from that side panel that I told you that I have to remove. And then over here is the oil tube that connects up to the hydraulic control lever. Now, down here is where I'm having the leak, where the oil tube connects into the cover of the hydraulic unit. And it's this little valve off to the side that I believe is just a drain plug for the cover itself when it's all attached, and you've got to drain out the hydraulic fluid. I don't have the answer yet. I'm going to take it apart, have a closer look at it, and try to figure out why it's leaking down at the bottom end of the oil tube. You can see I have the gasket repair kit for this job. This is the gasket for the PTO, and over here I have the gasket for the hydraulic cover as well. I've got the tractor up on blocks, takes it up about 3 inches off of the ground, enough room to get my buckets underneath there. There's the underside of the tractor right there, and you can see how the hydraulic fluid is leaking out around the cover there. Again, it's down underneath, but we need to pull that plug and a plug back there. I don't know if you can see it right in the middle of the shot there, and get the hydraulic fluid out. All right, so I don't know if you can see it way back there from that position, but I think you can from the other camera. I've got this plug loose back there, and so I'm going to go ahead and get that open and let this hydraulic fluid drain from this tractor. Where did I put my other glove?
This is going to be a mess. Not so bad after all.
I think when I take the cover off the bottom there, the cover for the hydraulic system, it's going to get a little bit messy. I think there's going to be some residual hydraulic fluid in there that's going to spill out or drip out. So what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of this sawdust here and put it underneath there to soak up any extra drainage that comes out. With the hydraulic fluid drained, I can go ahead and pull the PTO. Again, the rain was so noisy, I can't use the audio from this footage. I have to go ahead and do a voiceover. I'd already loosened the bolts here, so I'm just using my drill driver to zip them out nice and quickly. Each time I've pulled the PTO, I have to take off the cover, the protective cover at the back end of the PTO, in order to get some leverage on the shaft. The shaft provides the leverage needed to be able to get it loose and then be able to pull out the shaft. With the shaft removed, I always go back on these vertical covers and put a piece of paper towel in place using the bolts. Keeps out the debris and make sure I don't lose those bolts. It's time to remove this side cover. Again, I loosen these bolts using my wrenches, and then once they're loose, I just grab my drill driver to zip them out quickly. I decided not to remove the clutch pedal. Just press down, and with a little bit of wiggling, you're able to get out the cover quite easily. With the side cover removed, you can see inside the area where the pump sits quite clearly. In this shot, you can just see the back end of the pump and the two control arms that come down and that connect into the valve. I reach inside to disengage the control arms from the valve.
There's a better shot of inside. You can see the pump down there to the left. You can see that I've got one control arm loose from the control valve there, and I've got to get that right one, the right one as we look at it, out as well.
And now you can see that I have both control arms free of the valve. With your hand inside the housing, it gets a little bit difficult to get those control arms off, but you just have to play with them a bit and they will pop off.
You don't want to get a face full of oil. All right. So this view is from the ground up, literally underneath the tractor, looking up. Sorry for the shakes. So those are the two control arms. There's the on-off where the lever goes for the PTO. Now, if we look over here, look what I found right there. If I can tap it, if I can get this in. So that's that oil tube that runs. See it right there? But that's where I think the leak is coming from. Right out of this hole right here, or it's definitely right around this area. What I'll do now is I'll just put a temporary cover right over this here. You can see I've maneuvered my jack in here, and I'm going to use that to lower the unit down once I've got the bolts out. Alright, we've got movement, but it hasn't released completely. Probably just need to jog it a bit. It does take some wiggling and persuasion, but there you go. That cover is out. They're heavy, it's in an awkward position, so using a jack like this really helps out.
Okay, so I've got the pump out, and going back to this drawing here, we've got this oil tube. I've located the oil tube inside the housing. You've just seen that on that other shot. And right now, as you can see, I have the pump out and sitting right here. So, my main problem with the pump, it's not the pump itself, it's the gasket, the seal with this unit to the main housing, and what appears to have been a leak right in this area. So, here's the old gasket. I just took that off. What I'm going to do now is pack this up into the car and take it over to a local farm shop, farm dealer, a New Holland farm dealer, which I believe is now the owner of all the intellectual property concerning these old tractors, these old Fords, and see if they've got any insights. I'm interested to know how I set this plug and if that has anything to do with the issue, and if they have any recommendations in terms of how I install the new gasket. Here and see what advice they have for me. I'll meet you guys on the other side. I've just returned from the Farmall shop. We've noticed something here that I hadn't seen before on the cover unit, and that right down here, I'll bring you in closer in a second, right down here there's a hairline crack, and it's very close to where the leak was happening, and so they actually think that that's what the problem is. Let me bring you in here a little bit closer. Okay, as you can see right here, right at the end of the screwdriver, right through there, can you see it? A hairline crack. So anyways, we've got a crack there, could be the problem, and there are a couple of options. Let's talk about those. So the options include the following. One, I can take this to a welding shop and they can TIG weld, polish that down, and that might be a fix to this problem. Number two, buy an aftermarket unit. I'll go on the web and see what my options are. And number three, I actually think I have a spare hydraulic pump unit in a box at the cottage. So I'm going to have to go and see if I can dig that out of storage or wherever it's hiding over there at the cottage, and then more importantly, see if it's even something that I can work with. So I've got three options: TIG weld, aftermarket, and possibly a spare unit at my cottage property, if that's usable. So I'm gonna look into each one of those three and see which one might be the most viable going forward. The repair is gonna take a little bit longer than I anticipated. I thought that perhaps this afternoon I'd be putting this unit back together with the new gaskets. That's not the case. I've got those three repair options that I now need to look into further. But a question I still have for everyone is that you've seen that I have the gasket for this unit. Would you also use Ultra Blue to help get a better seal when I put it back in? I've actually seen a video where one guy with a 9N coats the gasket with something like this on each side, puts it in place, and then reassembles the unit. Needed, not needed, I don't know. What's your views, guys? Let me know, especially if you're one of the individuals who's been watching my channel, especially the 9N videos, and owns 9Ns. I think one of you out there actually owns like 5, and has extensive knowledge concerning repairs. Let me know what you think in terms of, is the TIG weld a viable option? So the questions are, is the TIG weld a viable option? And should I be using a gasket maker multi-purpose product like this to help create a better seal with my gasket that I've purchased for this project? Okay, everyone, thank you for dropping in and sticking through this with me. See you soon. Take care.